the action looking as far as the market goes, but let's understand now, amongst the fears of decline in GDP forecast, we continue to decode RBI's monetary policy, and we have Dr. Jerome Booth, who's from Ozone Networks India. He's joined us to give cues on India growth story. Dr. Booth, great to have you first and foremost on the show, and let's understand from you the policy that is that came out yesterday. Were you surprised when we saw there was no cut in interest rates, while everybody thought that at least a 25 basis point cut was coming?
Well, I think it's cautious. We don't quite know exactly where, which direction the economy is going, particularly with demonetisation. So I think it's quite understandable. Clearly this is a major issue, and we don't know the short-term costs, and we really don't. It's a very interesting policy because it does affect expectations and designed to affect expectations. There have been many experiments and policies involving cash and money all over the world in the past. And one of the great advantages of this policy is potentially it obviously not only reduces the illicit use of money and tax avoidance and other criminal activity, but it can also really change people's attitudes. I mean, what's going to happen next? What other policies are going to be in place? So whilst there are clear positive benefits, the short term, there are going to be, we already know there is disruption. So the prudent policy for the RBI, is obviously to just wait.
So calling it a prudent policy at this point, but taking on the point on the liquidity surplus situation as far as the banking system goes at this point, now you can make the reverse repo as the operative currency at this time, and it implies that MPC could have cut the reverse repo rate. What do you have to say on that and the liquidity situation of the banking system at the moment?
Well, I don't have a great deal to say about it. I think the interesting thing is that we have got the potential for revitalising the sense that structural change is coming in the economy, and that's, I think, the crucial thing that I think is important. And we are going to see, I think, a lot more focus, obviously, on digitisation. We are going to see banks affected by that. It's uncertain exactly, how long this is going to take to make profound changes, but it is one of the important things about demonetisation is it really focuses the attention on the fact there's more coming, and digitisation is serious. It is going to affect the banking sector. It is going to affect people's lives across the entire economy, and the government is sort of trying to reclaim, or seems to be reclaiming, the initial inertia that it had when it was elected, the sense that there's real national unity and we can have national policies and big structural reforms. That's, for me, this is wonderful news. Yes, there are short-term costs. There are all sorts of potential disruptions to reverse repos and interest rates. And I'm an economist, but I don't know what those are. I don't think anybody does. Let's rather than guess, let's just see how things pan out. But I'm very excited about the prospect for really accelerating Digital India and because it's not just important for reducing criminal activity. It's also important for the data that a digitised economy can give the government for designing future policy. There are all sorts of benefits which are out there, and if one of the biggest problems in India is that there is nothing like enough tax take. One can criticise the things on the expenditure side, but the real big anomaly is the fact that there's nothing like enough tax paid in India. So by having more people pay tax, obviously the average tax rate can come down and it can be affordable by many more. So insofar as we're now moving towards really big structural change to try and get a bigger formal economy and a reduced size of the informal economy, that's crucially important, I think.
So what you're suggesting is, or you think that it's going to be good in the long term, and that the whole digitization move is a big positive for India. But when you say long term is good, what about the short term? I mean, how long do you think this problem will continue of disruption that we've seen, the cash crunch situation that's in the country? How long do you think it could pan out and can pose a threat on the company's balance sheets in that sense?
Well, the simple answer, the honest answer is that I don't know and nobody knows. What I can say is that although it's only when things are critical and when people really have major problems that you get real change. And necessity is the mother of invention. The fact that there is a major problem has inevitably speeded up the digitization. There will be problems, across India of cash not being available. But we also know that people throughout history have been very innovative. They do adapt very fast. You look at hyperinflation environments, you look at other stories, other occasions of monetary innovation. And often, people use credit notes, they use other forms of money improvised in the short term. And so although there's a lot of gloom and doom about the potential impact that this might have on the negative side, I really don't think that I think the jury's out. I think it's really difficult to say how large or even how long that's going to be. And I rather suspect that it's not going to be very long before we start to see some major positive benefits. One of which, by the way, is that the perception for foreign investors has changed, and investors generally. I mean, even before Rajan, came to the RBI, that was an environment where there was a lack of domestic investment, and that started to change when he came to the RBI. It started to change again when Modi was elected. This could be another big boost to try and get people to really be more confident about longer term investment in the economy, and that could have a big positive impact, and it could come through in months, not weeks. And I think in the very short term, the question is how quickly people adapt. How many businesses can get their credit card machines working, how many alternative systems are improvised in order to get around the shortfall of cash in the near term.
Dr. Jones, I want to understand from you on the rupee and where do you think that is likely to be over the next few weeks, as there's been no rate cut and we have now received a very hawkish policy from RBI.
Well, it's obviously going to be positive, and remember also that the rupee is likely to be stable compared to some other currencies. We have this tendency, it's what I call core periphery disease, to think that the core, which is arbitrarily seen as Western Europe and the United States, somehow affects everything else, and the periphery doesn't affect the core, and I wrote about this in my book. But the reality is that most of the major macroeconomic risks in the global economy are now coming from Europe and the United States, not from the emerging markets, and certainly not from India. And the big currency movements in the near term are likely to be in the euro and the dollar. The euro, we've seen, the Italian referendum is going to lead to more chaos. We've got obviously a new president taking office in the United States. I don't have to go into much detail for you to realize that that's potentially disruptive. These are the big changes. So when we talk about the rupee, I see the rupee as relatively stable against some of these other much more widely utilized currencies. And I think the key issue for India is, on a terms of trade basis, what are the big factors? The oil price going up is a negative for India, but I think pretty much most other things going on are very positive, including obviously the fact that you've got a slightly more hawkish RBI.
All right, Dr. Jerome Booth, great to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing your perspective. So clearly, it's a positive move is what Dr. Booth says, and something which is going to be good in the long term. Yes, there are disruptions, but that is just a short-term bit. But very excited about the whole digitization push that the government is embarking upon, and that's going to be positive in the long run for the economy going ahead. But we take a short break on this note, but when we come back we continue to track the impact of the monetary policy with Karthik Srinivasan of ISRA.